Hi, it's Spiritual Psychic Cynthia Killian here, also known as Psychic Cynthia, and welcome. Welcome back to your Level 1 Awakening Your Inner Psychic video course class series. And we're moving into the upper chakra system today, the interdimensional gateway, the cosmic consciousness. So here in these upper chakras, we are reaching up and reaching out in a most special way indeed, in a most psychic way. And the root, so to speak, of the lower chakra system is the throat chakra. Now remember, all of the chakras, except for the crown and the root, have a front and back side. So your throat chakra is also your neck chakra. And that would mean that the back side is right here on the neck. In other words, that's where the energy comes in and starts out and then moves forward to where you're sending out in the throat. So do keep that in mind, that the throat chakra is also the neck chakra. And this is very much a chakra of the soul and the soul consciousness. In fact, it's here that your higher destiny rests. It's here that your sense of higher creativity and higher communication lies. It's right here in your throat chakra, your throat center, your neck center. And this has a lot to do with higher self-expression and communication. You know, the throat chakra has sort of a partnership with the sacral chakra. That's the second chakra, the one that's orange or associated with the color orange. In that sacral chakra is also your personal creativity, and it's the first creativity, the earliest. But it partners with our throat chakra here to create a higher creativity. And how this really operates, you see, is that your throat chakra is your connection to your soul's desires. Now down here in the sacral, it's more about the earthly or the ego desires, which aren't necessarily bad, okay? I mean, they can be destructive if they're left unchecked or they get too strong or too hungry. But you need the ego. Actually, you need that earthly part of yourself to exist in the earthly dimension. But then to exist as a spiritual psychic or as a person of higher consciousness, you're going to need to tune into this throat chakra. So it's very important to you, to anyone on a higher spiritual path, really. And it's extremely important to those of us who are on the psychic path, especially if you're going to be reading for others psychically, if you're going to be sharing your insights and your revelations or whatever it is you're getting. You want clear communication, right? You want to express eloquently, and you want to be understood. Now, part of that is connecting through the heart and in the heart, and we talked about that in our heart chakra video. But a large part of it is coming from your soul, and this has to do with your throat chakra. So right off the top, one of the things that you can do for activating that throat chakra is to meditate on this beautiful sky blue color, like the scarf that I'm wearing today. Sort of, this is more like a turquoise version of it, but it's very much in the vicinity of the color range of the throat chakra. Or you can see behind me here, look at that. Look at that beautiful sky blue. And their little bird flew by too. That's cool, because that's ties in with one way we might activate the throat chakra. But for now, stay focused on the color. That sky blue color, that is the color energy of your throat chakra. So really, all you need to do to get started activating this is to go outside on a sunny day like today, the day that I'm filming on, when there's a nice sky blue in that sky, and just look up at it, dear one. Meditate on it with your eyes open even. Of course, don't look at the sun directly. Well, unless you're into sun gazing, that's a different story, right? But the purpose of this is to actually see the blue. So meditate on that jewel blue. I like to call it a jewel blue, or a sky blue, or robin's egg blue, just a light blue. There are many shades that can be in the throat chakra, but they're definitely more of a light blue. It's the blue of clarity, is how I like to think of it. And that's what you are seeking and hoping to activate as you work in this throat chakra. You want clarity. Now, in terms of specific psychic gifts, the throat chakra is aligned primarily with the gift of clairaudience. So that is psychic hearing. And earlier, when I was pointing at the sky behind me, a little bird flew by. And one of the things we can do, it's sort of a different kind of technique. It might be a little far out there for some of you, but I'm going to throw it out anyway. So one of the things you can do, it's a very ancient technique to stimulate clairaudience and to open your throat chakra, is to practice what is called in the old days bird telling. Bird telling. And to do this, you go outside where there are songbirds, like there are here, there are many. And you listen to the birds. And you just perhaps close your eyes and get very relaxed. Soften up, breathe deeply. And hear their sounds, hear their song. And listen to the words, what they're saying. And at first it may just sound like sounds. But after a while, if you practice this a few times, you'll start to hear messages, maybe even words come through. I actually can hear the birds talking in a language sometimes because I've practiced this many years. But even if you don't hear it that way, maybe while you're listening to the birds, you'll hear something inside about your life, or you'll just get a sense of a message. That's inner hearing too. So bird telling, a wonderful esoteric way to stimulate the throat chakra. I wasn't planning to talk about that, by the way. That's a pretty advanced teaching. I don't know if I should be giving that away in level 1, but I did. So enjoy it, run with it. And of course, like all the other chakras, we want to work with the basic template of meditating upon the color. So in addition to going outside on a beautiful sunny day like today with the blue, with the sky blue, you want to use your consciousness, your mind, to visualize with your eyes closed the beautiful light blue color in whatever shade feels best to you. And it helps, sometimes if we massage or tap on that chakra or the location on the body, or at least touch it. So let's just start now together by giving your throat a little massage. Just gentle massage, getting it warmed up. By the way, you'll notice I'm standing in the sunlight. Did you know that sunlight stimulates all the chakras? So does moonlight too, but in a different way. So if you're feeling a little lazy, but you still want to get a little chakra opening, just go outside, on a sunny day. Now it's cool outside today and the sun is not real intense. This is a winter day, midwinter actually. I wouldn't be standing out here in this direct sunlight if it was like 110 in August, and you shouldn't probably be doing that either, okay? So do be aware, the idea is to be pleasantly comfortable, because you do want to be able to relax. And you'll notice too that I've moved my hands back to my neck here. So I'm massaging the neck area too. And I'm also turning my face up to the sun while I'm doing this, but my eyes are closed. And that's how I prefer to get the sunlight on my eyes for chakra opening. I do know some friends who practice sun gazing and they gaze right at the sun. I don't do that. I love my retinas too much. So, I don't know. I've heard that maybe, you can do that safely. But you don't have to for our purposes here. But if you want to get a little of that extra sunlight help while you're doing this, if you happen to be outside later, you can look at the sun but with your eyes closed for a few seconds. Okay. But whether you're inside, outside, whatever, keep giving yourself a little nice neck massage, throat massage. Oh yeah. Can you feel that? Can you feel that center opening up? It's interesting. Some people who've had past lives where they weren't allowed to speak their truth, or maybe they were hung or something like that for speaking their truth. Sometimes they'll be born with a birthmark on the neck, or they'll end up with a cut on it, or they'll just have that feeling that there's a noose. So, and they won't like wearing scarves around their necks. I don't really like it that much myself, but it does kind of look cool. But anyway, yeah, if you have any of that going on, it might mean a past life where you weren't able to speak your truth. So this throat chakra has a lot to do with speaking our truth and living our truth and being in integrity in your life. Because if you're speaking your truth, or at least not speaking a lie, let's put it that way, right? You're not speaking a lie. You're not saying yes when you mean no. You're not going along and you're not acting that you're in agreement with something when you're not, right? If you're not doing that, but if instead you're living a life where you are truly in agreement with that life and you're congruent, in other words, you have inner symmetry, everything is balanced, then that's going to be a healthy and balanced and strong throat chakra. And that also is going to help you to create more beautifully, to have that higher expression, that higher creativity. And I think that you can probably understand as I'm talking about this, why this chakra would be especially important to anyone who was hoping to, be a communicator. If you're hoping to communicate with others effectively, and especially if you want to be a teacher, you really do need to work in this higher energy of this throat chakra. Okay, so it's very important. If you want to do readings for others and you want to be understood, really, actually, it's not just about doing readings. Do you want to be understood in your communications with the people in your life? And one way to tell, just right off the top, real easily, a practical way to tell whether or not the energies of your throat chakra are flowing easily is how others relate to you in terms of the communications. In other words, do they listen to you? Generally speaking, when you give advice, do others hear you? Now, that doesn't mean they always do what you say, but are they willing to listen? Do they respect your opinion? And are you willing to listen to others? If you're just a know-it-all and you think you already know everything and you're closed to any outside opinions or guidance, then I guarantee your throat chakra is clogged up and you really need to get to work on it. And then the opposite is also true. If you're finding that other people really aren't listening to you, you're not being heard, then you want to work in that throat chakra. And really, I do strongly encourage you to start with the color energies. Meditating on color and bringing the color into our lives through our wardrobe, through our environment. It could be jewelry you're wearing, or even finding it in nature, especially finding the color in nature and meditating on that. These are all important cues to your subconscious mind, and they do reprogram you. And it's very necessary to reprogram in order to reach your higher levels of psychic development and spiritual consciousness. And that's just because we're all getting programmed all the time by mainstream society. And really, that current programming is not taking us to the higher levels. Okay, it's more all about keeping us conforming and doing the same thing. And it's certainly not about growth, okay? So you have to take the reins and take charge and use some of these symbols, like the colors, for example, to get yourself reorientated. And in this case, specifically in the throat chakra way. So please do that. Please do meditate on the light blue. And, even now, just close your eyes for a moment and breathe into your throat chakra and give it that massage, front or back. And you might try doing a little chanting, okay? Now, there are certain sound phrases that go with each of the chakras, and we're not going to get that in depth in this series. But what I want you to understand with the throat chakra is that any sacred sound, any sacred chanting or singing will activate your throat chakra. So you could do the very well-known Om if you wanted. Om. Or you could kick it up a notch and do a affirmation that includes Om of some kind, or a mantra. One of my favorite, just real simple ones that I used to practice with my friend Jim Haynes. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. But any sound, especially a vowel sound, that you feel psychically led to make, let it come out. Let's do some more. Let's just sort of let spirit lead us. Oh, the ice cream truck's coming by. Well, that's interesting because it's the middle of January, or excuse me, early January. I suppose that could be a sacred sound in its own way, right? Seems a little strange today. Anyway, let's just take a moment, and I'm going to let some sounds come through, and you can do that with me if you're in a place where you can do that, or you can just listen now if you want. So there's a little demonstration. It doesn't have to be that group of sounds. I probably couldn't repeat that exact group of sounds anyway if I had to. It's just what was coming through. You can also chant your own name. It can be very powerful. You can chant the name of a divinity. You can chant the names of the runes if you're into the runes like I am. Okay, for example, there's a lot that can be done with the chanting, and I don't want you to overthink this, okay? I want you to just get the idea that by using your throat to make sacred sounds, or even vowel sounds, because those are sacred, that you will be opening up doorways of consciousness and improving your ability to communicate at a higher level. You will be opening the pathway to higher creativity, to more ideas, to more inspiration. According to some, as you strengthen the throat chakra, you might even be increasing your immune system. And I could see that because if you think about it, this is the chakra associated with sound and hearing. And sound creates reality in many spiritual traditions. You know, in many of these old spiritual stories, you know, it says, for example, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God said, "Let there be movement on the waters," and there was movement on the waters, for example. So in almost all of the ancient traditions, if you go back far enough, there is a story about a sound being spoken, or sounds that are the matrix of creation. So your own voice, your own spoken word, creates the reality for all levels of your life, including your physical body. And that means if you're misusing your word, if you're lying, or if you're speaking harsh and critical things about others, or towards yourself even, that you are creating a miscreation. You know, that of course you might end up with some messed up physical health if you're doing that, because the template for your creation, in other words, the sound vibration, is being misdirected. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that everybody who has physical health problems has that because they misuse their words or their communication, but that is one source of it. I do believe that's true. That's one cause. Sometimes it's just your karma, okay? And that's another story, or I don't know, it could be a lot of different causes, right? But this is something to be aware of. There's a great benefit in using the power of your voice and your word. Remember too, your word, if you say you're going to do something to someone, or even to yourself, then you had better do it, because your word is your bond. And if somebody asks you to do something, and you know, you need to think about that before you say yes. I had a gathering recently, and I was showcasing some of my herbal tea blends and my essences, and I was also sharing some of these brewed up. And I had, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 different pots of teas going and all kinds of things. And they weren't all herbal, some were black and green. But anyway, I have this grounding root tea blend that I like to serve to guests sometimes. It's real special. It's kind of like a root beer, but it's a tea, and it's really delicious. And it takes a lot of work to put together and a lot of herbs. And I just haven't really written it down yet much. I have some chicken scratch notes, but I don't have the recipe, quote unquote, in a formula where I could share it with somebody at this time. And one of the guests there said, "Oh, this is so delicious. Cynthia, would you please write this down for me? I'd love to have it." And I said, I can't do that right now. That would take at least 30 minutes, if not an hour, because it's the steps involved they're involved, right? And I said, I just can't do that right now. And she said, "Would you do that later, please?" And I said, I'm sorry, I don't want to agree to that right now. I don't know that I will. I might, but I might not. I said, maybe if I decide to later, I'll send it out to everybody in an email, but I'm sorry, I'm just not going to agree to that. And I could tell she was a little bit deflated when I said that, but I explained to her, hey, look, this is about me and my word, and when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. At least at this time. I wasn't always where I'm at now. So if you're at a place in your life where you're thinking, well, gee, you've said a lot of things you were going to do and you didn't do them and you didn't finish things, and I get that. We've all been there. We've all done that. And besides, it's more about your overall pattern than just one little individual thing. So don't be hard on yourself if that's where you're at, because I used to be more that way. And this is how I learned that was shutting down my throat chakra. And it was making me harder to read for other people. It was harder to bring in guidance. I learned that I had to get in charge of my word and stop misusing it. For example, by agreeing to things that I really hadn't thought through. I mean, a lot of times when I was saying yes and I didn't do it, I just hadn't thought through it. I was intending to do it, but I hadn't really thought through my own ability to do things. So yes, be mindful of your word, and maybe just, as it says in the Bible, let your yes be your yes and your no be your no, and don't make promises that you can't keep. And maybe instead of making promises, you just do things and spring it on people, and then they're pleasantly surprised, right? Or at least always promise less than you can deliver. See, if you promise less and deliver more, then the integrity of your word is intact still. Now, if you promise more and to deliver less, then your integrity has been lowered. And your throat chakra will also be impacted by that, and your ability to create, your ability to manifest, to shine, and to express, all of that will be dimmed when you engage in those kinds of behaviors, because they are forms of self-lies. And basically, the integrity connection in the throat chakra is related to truth. If I haven't said that enough already, this is about living your truth, dear one, being your true self, your true soul. And of course, that would be very useful to you on your spiritual psychic path. So I think your homework is obvious. I've probably given you a lot of things to think about, but at the very least, get started going outside on a beautiful sunny day, the next one that you can. I know that not every day has these gorgeous sky blue skies, but when you can, get out there, spend a few minutes checking that out, breathing it in. Meditate on the beautiful light blue color. Tap or massage the throat. And really just practice sitting and tuning into your throat, tuning into your higher truth. Ask your higher truth what it wants you to do. Let it know that you're open. And also, as you're doing this, you're opening to your guides. So just be open to them. This is where your own will blends with divine will. And that's a mantra or an affirmation that you can use, something like that. You can say, I now merge my personal will with divine will. That is a wonderful overall upper chakra affirmation. So use that, repeat that to yourself, and begin to think in these higher cosmic consciousness terms. Oh, by the way, this is the chakra I feel of right timing. When you are tuned in to this chakra, you will know when to speak, and when to remain silent. You will also know when to act and when to wait and withhold from acting. So very important chakra. Don't skip this one. Spend extra time here, especially if you want to be a superb psychic. Until next time, bright blessings.